Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, is there a resolution at the desk?
The Secretary will report the resolution at the desk.
Senator Drazkowski introduces Senate Resolution Number 35, a Senate resolution relating to the removal of the Senate President.
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move adoption of Senate Resolution Number 35.
Senator Drazkowski, the pages are distributing the resolution. We'll take a moment. Senator Drazkowski moves adoption of Senate Resolution Number 35 to your resolution. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, I bring today Senate Resolution Number 35. I'll read it to you. It is short. The resolution says, be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Minnesota and pursuant to Minnesota statutes, Section 3.06, Subdivision 1, the Senate President Bobby Joe Champion be removed as Senate President, and that the removal be effective immediately upon adoption of this resolution. Mr. President, that is the resolution. I would like to say a few words about it. Mr. President, it is our responsibility as members to maintain the integrity of the Minnesota Senate. We have established rules of ethical conduct designed to do just that. Mr. President, Rule 56 of Senate Rules outlines in 56.1 that members must adhere to the highest standard of ethical conduct as embodied in Minnesota Constitution, state law, and our rules. And Mr. President, 56.3 says improper conduct includes conduct that violates a rule or administrative policy of the Senate, that violates accepted norms of Senate behavior, that betrays the public trust, or that tends to bring the Senate into dishonor or disrepute. Mr. President, our rule, Senate Rule number 56.4, says that members of the Senate must disclose potential conflicts of interest in the discharge of their senatorial duties. And if we will look closer at the Minnesota Senate policies for senators and staff, Mr. President, that are referred to, that I just referred to in the rules, it even gives more detail. Senators and staff are required to avoid actions that might impair your independence of judgment or give the appearance of impropriety. And the points included there include: put the public interest ahead of your own personal advancement and financial interest. It also includes: decide all matters based on their merits, free from improper influences. And also directs us to disclose conflicts of interest and refrain where practical from participating in decisions. The next section of the policies handbook says to avoid situations that could be disrespectful of the institution and the public. We are directed in this ethics policy to act honestly, fairly, and openly so that others can rely in good faith on your words and actions, on our words and actions. And then it directs, do not use your position to gain privileges or special treatment. Mr. President, we have currently a president that is embroiled in a Senate ethics complaint that stems from a wide array of articles that have been written throughout this state in the past 3.5 weeks, beginning with the article that was presented in the Minnesota Reformer on April 4th, nearly 3 weeks ago. The title of that says, DFL Senate President steered millions in public funds to a legal client. And we saw dozens and dozens of articles, social media posts, and other types of media that has spread this discovery throughout the entire state and country. Mr. President, that article itself talked about a bill that the President, as a member of this body, wrote to take taxpayer money, Mr. President, and send it to a nonprofit organization. The nonprofit organization was called 21 Days of Peace. That bill, Senate File 2970, was authored by Senator Champion in 2023 for $3 million of the people's money to go to a nonprofit organization, again called 21 Days of Peace. It's pointed out in the article that one of the directors, or maybe the executive director of 21 Days of Peace, Jerry McAfee, who not only was the pastor of Senator Champion's church, but under a similar name, was directed a nonprofit organization. So Mr. McAfee and his wife, Beverly, both in 2003 contributed $1,000 each to President Champion's campaign. Mr. President, there's another nonprofit organization that Senator Champion authored a bill for this year in Senate File 2425 to the Stair Step Foundation. It was $1 million, $1 million grant to this nonprofit organization. In 2023, 3 people from the organization, Alfred Babington, the president's CEO, his wife Anna Babington Johnson, and Sharon Thompson, the director of programs, all 3 of them sent contributions of $1,000 to President Champion's campaign. There was another nonprofit that Senator Champion wrote a bill to give the people's money to, Mr. President. called the Hennepin County Community Action Partnership. And in 2023, he authored a bill, Senate File 2985, that appropriated $6 million to the Hennepin County Community Action Partnership. The executive director, and I believe it was his wife with the same last name, Clarence Hightower and Beverly Hightower, each contributed the maximum contribution of $1,000 each to Senator Champion's campaign. It is to note that this same organization, Mr. President, Hennepin County Community Action Partnership, was involved in a huge scandal during the Dayton administration. There, the executive director, Bill Davis, went to jail for misuse of funds. And Senator Jeff Hayden's wife was also included in the scandal at the time. It was a huge scandal. I remember of it. And there were a number of other high-powered Democrats on the board that eventually resigned. $6 million. Mr. President, there was another nonprofit that Senator Champion wrote a bill to give $10 million of the people's money to. Build Wealth Minnesota. The bill was written in 2023, Senate File 805. It included, or the CEOs or the founder of this organization, this nonprofit organization, David McGee and his, I'm assuming his wife, Regina McGee, each in 2023, Mr. President, contributed the maximum contribution of $1,000 each to Senator Champion's campaign.
Mr. President, point of order.
Senator Latz, for what reason do you rise?
Mr. President, I rise to a point of order under Senate Rules 36.4. In discussing a resolution, each member is limited to 10 minutes. It seems to me Senator Drazkowski has met or exceeded the 10 minutes authorized for him to debate this resolution.
The point of order is sustained. Senator Murphy.
Thank you,
Mr. President.
Thank you,
Mr. President, I move to appeal the decision.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 6.3, I move that Resolution Number 35 be sent to the Rules Committee, and I ask for a roll call.
Mr. President,